Is Airbnb all bad? Like the previous video I did where I talked about all the mistakes that they've made and the reason why their stock is tanking? Well, the thing is they just released the summer release and they did a winter release 6 months before then, and they constantly make changes. And of course they're gonna make mistakes, but I do think it's unfair to only talk about the bad. So in this video, let's talk about some of the cool stuff that they've done. The reason why Airbnb is still the biggest player in the game is because they've done plenty right. And in this video, some of the stuff that they've done right might be resources that are available to you that you don't even know exist yet. So this video is going to be helpful to you, not just, entertainingly educational. So Airbnb, the good stuff this time. Let's go. Welcome back, YouTube world. So new backdrop. I'm in Las Vegas for EDC because all of you guys know how much I love music. You guys might have also noticed I've been writing a lot of music lately. I got back into writing music. I always said that I would retire early and write music again, and I'm trying to keep that promise. So my regular Instagram, not Airbnb automated, you can hear me sing if you ever wanted to hear me sing. So with that diatribe out of the way, let's get to the goods. Airbnb for the longest time had this security deposits feature that wasn't really a security deposit. It was something that we've always complained about. They then since deactivated that, so there's no longer this belief that you're collecting a security deposit that actually doesn't exist. But what they did is they actually made it possible to for real collect a security deposit. There are third-party APIs like HostFully or OwnerRez or other places like that. And with API partners, you can collect a security deposit and Airbnb will allow you to do that. For the longest time, they couldn't let you do that because you would have to take a form of payment directly, and Airbnb's payments thing, they just weren't contractually letting you. So they've made the adjustment to allow through an API partner for you to really collect a real security deposit. And that's a big positive, especially for homeowners, people with big properties, people with a lot of risk. Now you might ask, why would you want to collect a security deposit? Well, in the case that your property is worth enough money that collecting extra cash can be an additional screening method, right? If people are not willing to put down a, incidentals deposit like a regular hotel would, the Cosmo here, my incidental is like $750 is what they charge me as my hold for the 5 days that I'm here. And if somebody's not willing to do that, then you might not want to host them. So security deposits are a cool preventative measure, if anything. Airbnb has always led the industry in what I would call enterprise level solutions for hosts. Now, the concept here is that Airbnb is a low barrier to entry. Almost anybody can do it. As you guys know, all of my properties are properties I don't even own, right? So the tens of millions of dollars I've made, I've never even had to get a mortgage. And that's how low the barrier is my point. And with that, you have a lot of average people in the space. And there's one time that I actually learned to write software so I could write a fitness-based peer-to-peer service. And at the same time while hosting, I realized something about Airbnb a long time ago. The way that they are so sticky, and here's some good stuff that they've done, is they create features that would be hard to access for the average Joe. As a service provider, if you host, they give you features that VRBO, Booking.com, other people don't give you. So that way you prefer to use the Airbnb platform because some of the industry leading software that you can have. So for example, for color here, I had an idea for a fitness software where there'd be like some form of electronic charting. So if there's tens of thousands of you guys out there using different like personal trainers, your training history could basically go from personal trainer to personal trainer. And this level of tracking is something that makes you sticky to the platform. And it allows you to go from trainer to trainer to trainer. And thus, even though you could work with a trainer directly, you might want to keep that internal charting to know all the stuff you've ever done. And it allows you to pick a new trainer and they can pick up where somebody else left off. So it basically makes it easy for you to switch between personal trainers. That is an example of using software to create an extra benefit beyond the service that's provided. So instead of just booking a personal trainer on an app, not only that, but if you were in Boston for a weekend, you could book a personal trainer and there'd be hopefully no loss of quality in that training session. So that's an example. And here's the stuff that Airbnb does that's like this. Airbnb gives you something called the MultiCalendar. It's huge. Basically, all the pricing strategy stuff that I teach is centered around the MultiCalendar because you can see all of your listings in a linear time format instead of like a regular 12-month calendar flip book style. And that allows you to do lead time-based pricing analysis, day-to-day stuff, adjacency pricing, and adjacency logic is a big one that I teach nowadays. Even Wheelhouse has written software around adjacency logic based on conversations I've had with them. It's big stuff. And the MultiCalendar can allow you to set rule sets, which we're going to peep here in a second. And the MultiCalendar can allow you to set parameters to control when people check in and check out. You can fluctuate prices programmatically or automatically within the MultiCalendar. And you can change prices for 20 to 50 listings super fast. VRBO can't do that. And that's a big lacking that VRBO has is their pricing is super clunky because they don't have a multi-calendar. It's probably one of their biggest disadvantages. Another thing that they do, so that way you don't necessarily need to have a channel manager, is they allow you to schedule messages. And to schedule messages prior to arrival, after checkout, allows you to do more stuff that you would typically have to pay another software for. Again, this is a service beyond just the thing that you wanted, which is to be able to list your property and somebody to book. Or these enterprise level support widgets allow you, with no budget and almost no properties, to get the same benefits of very large companies. And that's what makes Airbnb so sticky. Very good ideas on their part. Another great idea that they've had and they've stuck to is maintaining the 14-day claim window for resolutions. And the reason why this is important for us hosts, we want to try to score a review first and then try to get the guest to pay us for damages that they might have done. This is big, obviously, because if we try to get a guest to pay for damages, their review might be unbecoming. This has always been a thing. I have a past video on our process for getting a review first and then charging a guest for damages, so that way our reviews are safe. This actually does work. And Airbnb allowing us to publish a claim as late as the review process allows us to control our workflows and really ensure that we're getting all the reviews unbiased. And so watch that video also if you are having a hard time with guests, resolutions, and reviews. They've added something recently in the winter release called ground rules. This is really cool because what it's done is it's allowed us to expand what Airbnb would consider to be enforceable rules as if they wrote them themselves. And so Airbnb wants to make sure that guests are well behaved and considerate and don't make a huge mess. And there's been a lot of things that Airbnb tends to be stuck on, like smoking and extra cleaning. These ground rules allow us to seek compensation for some of the more gray area stuff. And Airbnb, by increasing this amount of host support, is really protecting themselves. The moat that Brian Chesky wants to build is giving us stuff like this. So that way we don't just prioritize VRBO, if at all possible. And a new thing in the summer release, like I said, summer release just came, is they have optimized their co-host workflow. And I'm gonna do probably a deeper dive just on this. But what they've done is they've allowed you to not only just set a primary host or non, but even if somebody's not a primary host, you can give them tasks that normally would have been only reserved for a primary host. See, what happened is to be a primary host means that your face, your phone number, everything was up front and center. And you had to be all the way or just a sidekick, where somewhere in the middle, you might want to give a host or co-host back of house access. Everything that's not customer facing, you want them to have control over and authority on, but you don't want the guest to see that person. So they stay secondary as far as what the guest sees, but they have all this more admin moderator level stuff. And this gives you more granularity. There's also more granularity in the way that you can pay out and share money, which has always been something that people have been a little bit sticky on, is how do we split payments between the host and the co-host and everybody else. That's optimized now too. So these kind of updates also make me believe that they've abandoned the concept of teams. If you guys will remember, they tried to build something called teams, and they're going to let people take roles. It was almost going to be let people take roles. It reminds me of some SAP style software that just no longer is necessary. I think they've realized that the co-host way was the best way, and they're doubling down on that now. Some of my favorite final things that Airbnb has done are these enterprise level features, these enterprise level widgets. Some that maybe other platforms won't ever give you. Even channel managers can't give you this stuff because it has to dock into the OTA like VRBO, Booking.com, or Airbnb. What Airbnb's done by giving you the ability to set a 2, 3, 4, or 5 day discount, which is a Pro Tools thing, and also to do rule sets, which is a Pro Tools absolutely heavy stuff, they're allowing you to run the most optimized pricing model you could ever run. And a lot of people don't get this because a lot of people don't even know what the multi-calendar is. And a lot of people think that using like Price Labs or Wheelhouse is running a pricing strategy, where it's not. You're just automating numbers up and down based on whatever their opinion is. And that's an incomplete opinion. But that's as far as people go. People are like, oh yeah, I run a dynamic pricing model. I have Price Labs. Like, sorry, bro. You don't know what you're doing. You need to study pricing strategy. And one of the reasons why this matters, watch my heptagram pricing video for more expansion on stuff like this, is Tuesdays and Wednesdays aren't very popular, right? Harder to book than Fridays and Saturdays typically. Thursdays kind of caught in the middle. A lot of times when a Friday's booked, a Thursday could get booked too, right? So your Thursday price should be different than Wednesday, should be different than Friday. But let's say somebody books on Friday and checks in on a Friday, right? Well, now that Thursday's unbooked, it's actually no more special than Wednesday, because Thursday and Friday can't get booked together because Friday's already taken. So now Thursday's price has to come down because its relative value was the fact that it could go into a Friday day. So somebody could book Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now Thursday and Sunday are worth more because they're also needed in that high demand weekend slot, right? The weekends being high demand, those adjacent days are helpful. Where now, because the weekend's already booked, Thursday is no more special than Wednesday because it can't be used along with the weekend. So anybody booking Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday are just staying just for weekdays. And so now its relative value drops. But now what's even more sticky about this is that Thursday should be priced slightly less than Wednesday because there's less booking combinations that include Thursday. You want more on that, you watch my other videos. So because of this, you might want to use special 2-day, 3-day discounts to encourage more weekday bookings. But you might only want to apply that 2 or 3-day discount once the weekend is booked. And to do that, you would have to use a rule set to create a 2 or 3-day discount and apply it to weekdays that have been abandoned after your weekends get booked. And I teach all this stuff in Cracking Superhost. My deep dive on rule sets and that whole hyper pricing model, it's a lot. Now, it's not too much to learn. I have thousands of students who've done really well running their own pricing models by hand, and then they learn it well enough to put it into Wheelhouse, and then Wheelhouse runs most of it. You can learn this stuff, and I really recommend that you do learn this stuff. But the point of this video is that that's not even possible on VRBO or Booking.com. You have to run a much more basic pricing model on VRBO and Booking.com, which means the type of customers that you get are going to be much more defined, where with Airbnb, using 2, 3, or 4-day discounts and using rule sets, you can try to get 4 or 5 different consumer types at the same time. You can run what I would call a robust pricing model. So Airbnb's done a lot right by giving us the features that we need to try to get as booked as possible. And these are the features that really helped me get over 90% occupancy only using Airbnb with over 100 properties. And I was able to pull this off before COVID hit. And even after COVID, we managed to keep growing to up to like 150 something properties. So it's not even that things were easy pre-COVID and then hard after. But my point is I didn't even use VRBO or Booking.com prior to COVID. And I was able to get over 90% occupancy on Airbnb alone using these features. So Airbnb does do a lot right. It's important for you guys to understand it. Now, coming soon, we're gonna be doing videos on the summer release. I've got probably 10 videos up in the middle pipeline here on the summer release. And yeah, I guess I just gave an official public disclosure of an on-demand fitness app. If any of you guys want to help me code that, I think now's the time. This is the year for me to get into some software. So any of you software people, send me a DM on Airbnb Automated's Instagram, IG, Airbnb Automated. Hit me up. Let's do business. Let's have fun. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. And as always, I'll see you on the other side.